everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click subscribe and enable notifications so you can get instant updates from our channel going forward. My name is Dr. Nitin Choda. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video right here. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it is about your money. Let's just jump right in. I believe that the reason we find ourselves in this situation today is because of a complex situation that we find ourselves in. In this video, I'm going to answer the question, who's really at fault in this? And by the end of this video, I promise you'll have the answer to your question. I encourage you to watch this entire video all the way through to the end. Let's just jump right in. I believe in the world that we live in now, you have a personality that uses a platform to communicate with a person or a consumer. Again, you have a personality that uses a platform to communicate with the person or consumer. So once again, you have personality. And by the way, this personality in the context of this discussion is a political personality. Pick your poison, whoever you think that personality is. But when this personality becomes an instigator, becomes someone who essentially makes people more agitated, then the platform, and regardless of what the platform is, the platform could be Twitter, the platform could be Facebook, the platform could be YouTube, you're on YouTube right now, or the platform could be Parler. Doesn't really matter what the platform is. That platform can now be used to propagate a lot of negative emotions, a lot of hatred, and then the person who's consuming these messages, the disenfranchised person, can essentially reinforce their own worst fears, reinforce their own worst beliefs when this whole situation does not work as intended. Now, when the entire situation works as intended, you have the personality using the platform to communicate with the person, to better educate the person, to empower the person, to help the person become more successful, hopefully more educated, more intelligent, more wealthy. That's fundamentally what education is all about. I mean, think of a personality as a teacher. Think of a platform as a classroom, and think of the person as a student. But within the context of this discussion, the personality can be a politician or an instigator. The platform can be Twitter, can be Facebook, can be whatever social media platform you want it to be. And then the person or the consumer becomes a recipient of this information, who then can become more and more emotional, more and more agitated, and then end up doing things that they would not normally do, effectively making them brainwashed. This is how cults work. Let's take a quick look at platforms, for example. There are two fundamental differences between Twitter and Facebook. Twitter is fundamentally designed for one-way communication. In other words, one person sends out a message and everybody else processes that message. This, by the way, is exactly how Donald Trump has been communicating for several years. This has been the hallmark of his modern presidency. Facebook is fundamentally designed for two-way communications. In other words, you sort of talk back to each other. It's not one way, it's two-way. People talk to each other, people intermingle, not just with each other, but with a whole group of people. That leads me to the second difference between Twitter and Facebook. Twitter is designed to have followers. In other words, an individual, meaning the personality, has followers. And then in Facebook, you have essentially groups. So in Facebook, you have individuals in groups becoming part of groups with the group administrator, but individuals engage amongst each other in groups. These are the two fundamental differences between Facebook as well as Twitter. Now, we're about to take a look at a very important interview with Chamath Palihapitiya. And Chamath, I believe, is going to be the next Elon Musk. I encourage you to follow him on Twitter. I encourage you to check out his YouTube videos. And he's a Sri Lankan born Canadian-American venture capitalist. Now, he's the CEO of Social Capital. He was one of the early senior executives at Facebook, and he joined the company in 2007 and left it in 2011. So he does know a lot about Facebook from the ground up, and he's a minority stakeholder and board member of the Golden State Warriors. He has launched many SPACs, that are special purpose acquisition companies, and I'm an investor in many of those companies. So Palihapitiya said something very interesting, and I'm going to show you that segment towards the end of this video. But here's a very important quote on your screen from Palihapitiya. We need a real come to Jesus moment in this country about what's really important. Facebook amplifies echo chambers, problems, and your worst fears on purpose and by design. This is just astonishing. He said, if you are disenfranchised, you can find a corner of the internet that amplifies your worst fears. 90% of this activity happens inside Facebook. Facebook is algorithmically deciding, building things that are amplifying the lobotomization, the intellectual cornering of people, so they cannot learn what's really happening, so their worst fears and worst concerns are amplified. Section 230 has to change. Some incredible comments from Chamath Palihapitiya. I encourage you again to follow him on Twitter and YouTube, and I do believe that he's going to be the next Elon Musk for our generation. So now let's shift gears and ask ourselves the question, who is actually responsible? Another very interesting exchange that I wanted to share with you is with Anthony Noto, who's the CEO of SoFi Bank and the former COO of Twitter. So Anthony is someone we should listen to because he was previously a managing director at Goldman Sachs. He was a CFO of the National Football League. And like I said, he was a CEO of Twitter and head of Twitter Ventures. He also attended the United States Military Academy at West Point. So he does understand a thing or two about the way security works and the way we should be functioning as a society. In fact, Anthony's company, SoFi, is going to go public through Chamath's SPAC. And Anthony was interviewed and Anthony was asked specifically about his response to the Capitol incident. Now, the segment I'm about to show you took place right after the Capitol incident when Twitter had temporarily banned Donald Trump. And then since then, Twitter has permanently suspended Donald Trump. So when you hear Anthony speaking, keep in mind that this clip was taken right after the Capitol incident, before the permanent suspension of Donald Trump. But it's very important to listen to what Anthony is saying, specifically that we cannot blame one person. We are all responsible. We are suffering the consequences. The world we live in comes with risks. Again, let's go back to the visual I showed you earlier, the personality, the platform, and people. Let's say the personality is the instigator. The platform, it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, it's something that you choose to consume, and then you as a person, you essentially get hypnotized, brainwashed, if you will, lobotomized, intellectually cornered. These are words from Chamath Palihapitiya. If this happens to you, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that only the instigator is responsible? Does that mean that the platform is responsible and therefore to blame when they try and crack down, which by the way, they should have done a long time ago, but they had their, they had their come to Jesus moment a little too late. Many would agree. And then would you say that you're responsible if you're getting intellectually cornered by these platforms? The truth is, we are all to blame. Let's take a look at fascinating comments from Anthony Noto, and let's roll the tape.
You're a proud graduate of the United States Military Academy. A lot of CEOs are speaking out over the last 24 hours plus about the events that everybody witnessed yesterday. You've tweeted some things about it. I'd like to hear, though, from you directly.
Yeah, so yesterday was a very, very challenging day. When you do deals like this, there's a ton of things going on in that last day. And so there's a fog over you. And I was on a Zoom conference call talking about allocations, talking about press releases, talking about final signatures and deal terms. And I looked up and I saw on my TV, which was on mute, like this rioting and unrest, and I immediately thought, boy, that looks like Berlin. Are they showing us something from, World War I or World War? And I was confused because I'm focused on the Zoom, and then I'm like, well, maybe that is the Soviet Union. And then I realized it was the United States, and I couldn't believe it. It's just unacceptable. It's intolerable what happened yesterday. It challenges the very fabric and foundation of our democracy. And what's worse, it's incited by the most important, the most privileged position in the United States, the seat of our president. And so it's absolutely intolerable. It's unacceptable. I believe in free speech. I believe in free demonstration, but it needs to be done with mutual respect. And it needs to be done within the letter of the law and the rule of law. And it's up to our public officials to reinforce those principles, not challenging them and break them down. So I was appalled by what I saw and disturbed by it. We sent a message to our company, and we as leaders are responsible to run after these problems. One of our core values at SoFi is we run after problems. This is a problem all of us face, and each one of us has to have that mentality that it's our responsibility to make a difference. And it's not someone else's problem, it's each of our problems. And I think back to what happened in the greatest atrocities in the world over the last 100 years, and social media platforms are actually making us more aware of those things today. And when I saw the video of the President of the United States saying what he was saying, I said to myself, thank God we have Twitter. Thank God we have Facebook. Thank God we have Snapchat and we have YouTube. Otherwise, we'd be in the dark, and it would allow this type of behavior to perpetuate itself. And those leaders of those companies are making the best decisions they can. And so are others. And so I applaud them for taking action and running after problems and trying to solve the solution instead of accepting it and letting it become the norm. So that's how I think about it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted you to finish your thought. Forgive me.
No, that's okay. That's how I think about it. I think it's important that we all as leaders maintain the foundation of what has made our country great, and we take responsibility for doing that and don't wait for someone else to take the action. We have to run after problems and make the difference.
Look, you went there with social media. You used to be a high-ranking executive at Twitter, which has shut the president out now for 12 hours. You don't think Twitter and social media has been responsible in any way for what we witnessed yesterday?
I think we're all responsible. We had a free election. We elected the administration. We made that choice. We're now suffering the consequences. So now we have to take another action and take responsibility for our actions. And we elected a new president, President-elect Biden, and we should support him. It's time for the administration to hand over the flag. The change of command needs to happen seamlessly, and it's our responsibility for making it happen. We can't blame one person, one organization, or one leader. We, the people, are responsible for what happened, and we, the people, are responsible for fixing it.
You think Twitter made the right decision?
I think Twitter is faced with really tough decisions, and I don't know all the details to weigh in on whether or not this was the right decision. What I will say is this. We are better as a country when we can see a leader that is trying to break the foundation of our democracy, and to be aware of that and see it firsthand so it doesn't go unnoticed, so that we can react and identify the problem. But there becomes a point when the balance flips over, where the balance of giving the world the visibility of that, the transparency of that, comes at the risk of the people. And I think we saw that yesterday.
Anthony,
and so I'm with Jack.
I appreciate you coming on today. Congratulations on the deal. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
And one of the reasons I say we are all responsible is we want stock prices to go up. We want to make more money. We are interested in short-term profitability. We are interested in short-term gratification, regardless of whatever the cost is, sometimes at the cost of our own democracy. I'm about to show you a clip from Chamath, where Chamath says we optimize for short-term profitability at the sake of democracy, and moral and ethical imperatives are, I quote, left in tatters. He indicated that if Facebook knew that people would dump their shares if they didn't take certain actions to better police the content on their channel, on their network, then Facebook would have made many changes that they are trying to make now a long time ago. But because a company is driven by short-term profitability, because investors like you and investors like me are driven by short-term profitability, this comes at the sake of our democracy, and moral and ethical imperatives are left in tatters. Incredible comments. And then I'm going to show you a comment from Chamath, where Chamath talks about the lobotomization, the intellectual cornering of our fellow Americans, both by the personality and by the platform. So make sure you watch this video all the way through to the end. First, let's take a look at the moral and ethical imperatives that are left in tatters because of our focus on short-term profitability. Incredible comments from Chamath, worth analyzing, worth dissecting, which is why I'm highlighting them on our channel. Let's roll the tape.
You know, Chamath, I'd like to continue on this line of conversation that we're on now. You were an early Facebook employee. You've been critical of that company. What are your thoughts on what Twitter has announced? Facebook now says that they're going to ban President Trump throughout the remainder of his term, which is a couple of weeks. How are you thinking about this today?
I'm really of mixed emotions. Let me just tell you what I feel as an ex-employee. What I'm thinking to myself is that if I was working at Facebook today, I would be confused. And largely because I would wonder what changed from 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 24 months ago, and today. The disinformation was the same. The amount of sort of vitriol that flowed through some of the groups was the same. Their ability to organize was the same. Storm the Capitol existed before they actually stormed the Capitol. And so, unfortunately, the skeptical part of me says we optimized for short-term profitability at the sake of our democracy, and what we left in tatters was any sense that there was any sort of moral or ethical imperative that would govern decision-making at that company. And so that saddens me for the people that work there. As a business person, I think we're also slightly to blame because we've sort of, said that that's okay because we've been enamored with the short-term profitability of Facebook. So I think in a nutshell, I think Anthony is right that we are collectively a part of this problem. I don't think it's theirs of their own making. You know, if the feedback loop to Facebook was fix this problem, otherwise we will sell your stock, they would have fixed it a long time ago. Instead, it was you're rich, get richer, we'll support you. And this is what happens, Scott.
And now to what I believe is the most significant aspect of Chamath's video. And I'm going to actually highlight this set of comments again because I believe it's worth repeating. Extremely important, and I really want you to digest this and process it. Here's a quote on your screen from Chamath Palihapitiya, who's a CEO, founder and CEO of Social Capital, and he's a venture capitalist. We need a real come to Jesus moment in this country about what's really important. Facebook amplifies echo chambers problems and your worst fears on purpose and by design. If you are disenfranchised, you can find a corner of the internet that amplifies your worst fears, and 90% of this activity happens inside Facebook. Facebook is algorithmically deciding, building things that are amplifying the lobotomization, the intellectual cornering of people so that they cannot learn what's really happening, so their worst fears and worst concerns are amplified. Section 230 has to change. In fact, he refers to it as a fig leaf that a lot of these tech giants are hiding behind. And he did actually make a differentiation between Twitter and Facebook. And he felt that Twitter was less to blame than Facebook because Twitter is built around followers. I did highlight the differences between Twitter and Facebook earlier. Let's show you those differences again on your screen right now. Twitter is primarily intended for one-way communication. Facebook is intended for two-way communication. Twitter is primarily designed for followers, and Facebook is primarily designed for groups. That is the ultimate intention behind the two. Now I'm simplifying this, but I am trying to help you understand the difference between Twitter and Facebook. So let's roll the tape and check out what Palihapitiya had to say. And he said Facebook amplifies echo chambers by design, and a healthy social media diet is needed. Listen closely to his comments and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's roll the tape.
Roger McNamee, who I know that you know, said earlier on the network, he called what Facebook's done, and he's been a notable critic, to say the least. He called it an act of desperation, echoing your words that the kind of things that we've seen on Facebook have gone on for too long. He said Chris Sacca, who is an early Twitter investor, has been in the Shark Tank as well, who, and I know you know Chris too, he was more explicit in his criticism of both Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. You've got blood on your hands, Jack and Zuck. For 4 years, you've rationalized this terror. Inciting violent treason is not a free speech exercise. If you work at those companies, it's on you too. Shut it down.
Scott, I think that we have to make a very clear distinction here. I think Twitter and Facebook are two very different products. I think the thing with Twitter is I actually think they're less to blame. And the reason is because the product is designed for everybody to be able to follow everybody else. So there is an incredible free flow of information. It does create a different problem, which is how do you construct a healthy social media diet? But that's what the problem is on Twitter. The problem on Facebook is different, which is it amplifies echo chambers on purpose and by design. And so if you're somebody who, for whatever reason, feels disenfranchised, you can find a corner of the internet where you can amplify your worst fears. And unfortunately, 90% of that activity now happens inside of Facebook. The reality is that I think we've all realized after today that Section 230 is a fig leaf, that there is no way that these companies can hide behind it, that Facebook is a publisher, that they should be held to the same account as any television station or any newspaper, and that's okay. And they should just figure out how to adapt the product and move on. The thing about today, which I think is just unfortunate, is backpedaling is just kind of spineless. Right? For example, Kelly Loeffler can't go into the floor of the Senate and all of a sudden change her mind because there was rioting and 4 deaths. That's what it took. But everything else, it didn't change the actual perspective of whether there was voter fraud or not. And so all these fig leaves, people see through them and people know them to be fake. And so we just have to have a real come to Jesus in this country about what's really important.
Just to put a button on it before we take a quick break, so you think Section 230 should be repealed?
I think Section 230 needs to change, and I think that these social media companies need to be dealt with as publishers. And I think at the front of the line is Facebook because they are algorithmically deciding. There are people inside of that company that are building these things that are amplifying the lobotomization, the intellectual cornering of people so that they cannot learn what's really happening, so that their worst fears and their worst concerns are amplified. And we need to do a better job of understanding that that diet is unhealthy. That now that you sell cigarettes that cause cancer, there needs to be labels. They need to be put behind the counter. They need to be far away from a children's reach. These things need to happen. And the equivalent version of that drives this decision-making online is Section 230. It has to change.
So that's it, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you agree with the fact that we are all to blame? Do you agree that it's not just the personality, but also the platform and also the person? Again, this is about personality, platform, and person. I know it's very easy to blame one personality, one instigator, although I do believe the instigator in this case shares most of the blame, because the instigator has actually exposed the fact that the platform can be misused and can be used to do damage. But the platform is also responsible because the platform allowed this to go on for so long. They allowed this to go on because it was good for their bottom line, and then they finally took a stand. And by the way, you saw comments from Chris Saka earlier in this video where Chris Saka basically said, these executives, Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, have, I quote, blood on their hands. And also, Chamath took a shot at Kelly Loeffler, who apparently had her own moment of realization that she should not vote against the Electoral College certification process. But the underlying belief that there was something nefarious with the election was hammered in by the instigator using the platform. So again, it was the personality and the platform that took advantage of the inherent weakness, the inherent diabolical, double-sided nature of the structure of communication that exists, and then as a consequence, the person got influenced. Now, this doesn't mean that all persons are influenced, but this does mean that enough people are influenced, enough people are radicalized, enough domestic radicalization is taking place using these mechanisms that we have cause for concern. I hope you found this video valuable. I encourage you to share this video with at least 2 friends or family members. I would greatly appreciate that. I know this has been an intense topic, so I'm going to try and lighten the mood with some important messages, so make sure you watch this. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time. We live in very, very unusual times. My goal is to try and help you make sense of this unbelievable world that we live in. Here's a little bit more information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Now, I encourage you to follow me on Twitter, because you'll learn instantly in real time what I'm reading, what I'm thinking, because I'm on Twitter quite a lot. So definitely follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, as well as my Twitter handle, I discuss matters that are important to the country, matters that are important to the economy, and matters that are important to your money. This is an incredible climate that we live in, and I want to help you make sense of this unbelievable world around us. Now, remember, we release videos on a daily basis, so make sure you subscribe to our channel, make sure you enable notifications, and make sure you please give me a like, because that tells the YouTube algorithm that you found this content helpful. Now, keep in mind that YouTube does not always send out notifications on time when I release new videos. That's just the way the algorithm works. So all you need to do is simply bookmark youtube.com/ignition time. That's youtube.com/ignition time. And then you'll be able to visit the homepage of our channel and watch our videos at any point in time that you want. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is also ignition_time. That's ignition_time. You'll get exclusive news and alerts on Instagram. Remember, follow us on Twitter, because you'll get real-time alerts on Twitter. Our Twitter community is growing very rapidly. In fact, I've been receiving notifications on my phone as I've been recording this that our Twitter followers are growing, and more of our fellow citizens are following me on Twitter. So definitely follow me on Twitter. Once again, the Twitter handle is ignition_time. One of the things I'm especially proud about is our community, not just here on YouTube, but also on Twitter. Please comment below, engage with our community, engage in a healthy, a respectful, a bipartisan debate, because there's one thing we need as a country right now. It's a healthy, respectful debate more understanding, more respectful engagements, as opposed to just arguing all the time and being at odds with one another. So I encourage you to comment below. Just comment below and let us know what you think of the content in this video and your thoughts on matters that are relevant to the country, relevant to the economy, and relevant to your money. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, you'll get a link in the description section below. In many cases, multiple links in the description section below, so you can learn more about our news sources and you can dig deeper into those news sources on your own if you choose to. Finally, please share this video with 2 friends or family members. That's all I ask. Please share the video with 2 friends or family members so that we can grow our community. Again, please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really, really appreciate that. I know that this kind of information, I know that the intense environment we live in is not a laughing matter, it's not a dancing matter, but I want to try and give you the news and give you the truth wherever it might lead us. That is my goal with the Ignition Time community. In the end, when all of this craziness is behind us, like I've said before, I want it to be raining money. I want there to be lots and lots of money, whether it's through stimulus, whether it's through a job, whether it's through a side gig, whether it's through your own business. I want it to be raining money. I want us to be happy. I want us to be smiling. I want us to be smiling. I want us to be in a party mode. I want there to be confetti everywhere. I want us to get this craziness, this unbelievable madness behind us, and one day we will, because I believe we'll end up stronger from this crisis. And one day, when all this craziness is behind us, we'll be dancing. And I'll be breakdancing because I have pretty bad breakdancing skills. And here's the rope. It was pretty hard to pull that imaginary rope. So that's it, everybody. I hope we get through this together. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for putting up with my skills. Here's one more. Watch this. That was me pulling the imaginary rope towards the camera. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Once again, please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thank you. Bye.